Good evening. How are you guys doing? Wow. Welcome to a live stream for Retail Leadership with Steve Worthy. I'm really excited to talk to you today about this topic. It is something that is near and dear to my heart. And dare I say that I won't say everybody, 70% of the people who are listening to this have actually dealt with this. So let me ask you a question. I'm going to start with a question. So what do people like Albert Einstein, Michelle Obama, Maya Angelou, and here's the thing, yours truly, Steve Worthy, all have in common? I purposely put this picture up there of me smiling and laughing because this will probably be the only time where I will ever be compared or put in the same sentence as Albert Einstein, Michelle Obama, and Maya Angelou. And dare I say, even yourself, you can put yourself in this. And one of the things that we have all struggled with and dealt with was this insidious idea, this concept, or this thought process, and it's called Imposter Syndrome. It's something that we're going to talk tonight about. We're gonna unpack it. We're going to kind of discuss some of the tenets of it a little bit, but more importantly, I want this to be an interactive live stream where you are asking me questions. The other part, that if you want to go live with me, if you want to come on and maybe talk about that you have dealt with imposter syndrome, please let me know. That would be kind of cool. I'm completely open to that as well. But one of the things that I want you to know about imposter syndrome and what we're gonna leave you with today is that you are enough. You are enough. It's not so much that imposter syndrome has to take over your life. It has to take over your being and who you are. It doesn't have to be something that could actually debilitate you from making a decision. And it has for me in the past. It has caused me to not focus in on my strengths, not focus in on who I am and really what I want to do and what I'm about. But more importantly, it's actually had caused me to miss opportunities because I wasn't operating in my full capacity because of nervousness, because of self-esteem, some things like that. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So we're going to also do something a little different tonight. I wanted to try this out. And I said, well, you know what? I've done it a couple of times in practice before. Practice. Yes, we're talking about practice. Those of you who are Allen Iverson fans, you guys will get that one. You guys will get that joke. But I wanted to do something where I actually kind of write down my thoughts on the screen. And so before we do that, I do want us to talk to you a little bit about just the different platforms that we are on, from a worthy retail leadership standpoint, worthy retail youth standpoint as well. So if you wanted to, you can connect with us on LinkedIn, and that is at Worthy Retail U. As well, we have a private group there that we actually discuss different topics. We talk to different people about their leadership style, different things that they're actually going through as well. You can also connect with me at Steve Worthy on YouTube, and you can look at us on our YouTube account. I would ask, if you like the content that you're hearing tonight or any of our previous content, please comment and let us know. But more importantly, I ask that you go ahead and click that like button and subscribe, and also that bell, so that way you'll know anytime we actually upload a video or we're actually going to be going live as well. So go for it and do that as well. And then lastly, you can connect with us at Worthy Retail U on Instagram as well. All right. So going to try something different tonight. I've seen a lot of people do this, and I said, well, you know what? I'm going to try this real quick. I'm going to do this. And before I get into everything, so I got a little overhead shot. And what I'm going to be doing tonight is kind of going through my thoughts and actually writing them down on the screen as we have our conversation. Here's why I want to do this, because for me, whenever I think about a different concept or I'm trying to express a thought, a lot of times when I'm trying to remember something, I have to write it down. I have to write it down. A lot of times where I'm speaking into a phone or something like that, you have to capture that thought immediately so that way it kind of gets ingrained into who you are. But more importantly for me, I want to write certain things down because as you comment or as I think about it, I may want to highlight some of those thoughts that you are bringing to the table with your comments as well. So we're going to do that a little bit differently today as well. So before we get started, just want to say appreciate you. Thank you so much, Alicio, for being here. If anybody doesn't know, Alicio Way is an amazing content creator. He's also the person that is responsible for these overlays that you guys are seeing for Worthy Retail U. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'm glad you're here, buddy. I really appreciate it as well. So what is imposter syndrome? What is it? We talk about it a lot. We hear it's like a buzzword, right? It is this word for I want to say probably even like the last maybe 2 years has been out there in the marketplace, and people are either afraid to talk about it. Some people don't feel that it exists, or people want to use it as sort of a catchphrase to try to bring people into their fold. For me, I think about imposter syndrome a little bit differently, and I'll explain about that here in a second as well. I'll explain in a second. One of the things that happens. What can everybody? I guess you guys can hear me. The sound effects are unmuted. Apologize. One of the things that happens when you think about imposter syndrome, one of the focuses that tends to happen is that it deals with self-esteem. Self-esteem. It's something that you have been dealing with, that is something that's brought up from a personal standpoint. It's something that you have dealt with as you have become an adult. We're going to talk about those two here in a second. But what imposter syndrome does, it causes you to doubt who you are. I don't know if you guys can read that. I'm going to change the color, actually. We can do this because we are live. It causes you to doubt who you are. That's what it does. It causes you to doubt who you are. And I got to tell you, if you have been struggling with understanding kind of your purpose in life, what your goals are, you may end up chasing something that is not obtainable because it's not for you. But when you are about to embark on something that you feel is extremely important to you, that it actually creates butterflies in your stomach, it's something that you think about all the time, that you want to go after. The tendency sometimes is that imposter syndrome will rear its ugly head. It will actually come into your mind and come into your thoughts, and it will say that you are not good enough. You are not good enough. Let me go back to Albert Einstein. So Albert Einstein, I'm live, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do it this way too. I like this actually. So I'm going to go ahead and just do this live right now with you as I'm talking about this. So Albert Einstein, one of the things that he called himself an involuntary swindler. He said that everything that he has actually created, he felt that he did not deserve the accolades for anything that he's actually created in his entire career. So just think about this. This is Albert Einstein we're talking about. He felt that this was something that E equals MC squared that anybody can think of, anybody can do. He was doubting himself, even in the midst of creating something like E equals MC squared, the concepts of relativity. He doubted himself. Michelle Obama. Michelle Obama. She has consistently talked about her struggles with imposter syndrome while she was in the White House. And also, let me move this camera over a little bit as well, too. Do it live. Why are we doing it live? And she continued to struggle with imposter syndrome. Think about this. Think about this. I know she was the wife of the president of the United States, but that she wasn't just the wife of the president of the United States. We all know that the wife is really the backbone of the marriage. But more importantly, she was such a woman of stature that millions and millions of women, young women alike, all generations, all races looked up to her because of how she carried herself. And she still struggled with this idea and this concept of imposter syndrome. She still struggled with it. And she said that she's still struggling with it to this day. To this day, she's still struggling with it. Maya Angelou, this is the one I really like, actually. I what I mean by that is I really like what she says here. Her quote. I'm just going to keep putting myself on the screen. I apologize if you have anything. And what she says, her famous quote from an imposter syndrome standpoint is that I have written over 11 books, and every time I feel like, oh my gosh, they're going to find me out. This is a woman who has shaped and cultivated literature. She has classes, in universities based on her writing, based on who she is. And she still feels like she has to not answer for what she's done and what she's created, but she doesn't feel worthy enough, no pun intended, to take on the accolades of being Maya Angelou and understanding the impact that her writing has on everybody. It has on people that have not even, don't even speak English. Her books have been her poems have been translated into so many different languages. But what she feels is that she doesn't feel worthy enough sometimes. How many of us feel like that? How many of us still feel sometimes that we are not worthy, that we don't deserve some of the accolades that we get? Here are, in my research, a couple of things that I discovered about imposter syndrome. Think about it in this vein. So if you come from a family, it's twofold. You can come from a family that is super competitive, where grades, achievement, they are super focused, that this is what your family is about. This is what your parents thrive for. They want their kids to be successful. They want you to go to Harvard, Yale, all these different schools, right? There's such a high price that's actually given to achievement. Or you can come from a family where achievement isn't the biggest thing. It's not at the forefront of your parents' mind. Even in your mind, you're a good student. You're a good person. You're smart. You get through class. You get through school, all of those things, right? But here's what happens. The tendency, what happens is that in both situations where we end up putting ourselves sometimes in a competitive environment, let's say it's in college or let's say it's in the workforce, a lot of times that mindset of being such a high achiever tends to create these situations in our life that are unrealistic for us to obtain, because we've been reared that way. We've also been socialized that way, whether it's in TV, whether it's and with your friends, your peers, whatever it may be. Take that other person, the other scenario where achievement wasn't at the forefront of their mind when they were kids growing up. What happens is that when they get into a competitive environment, or they get into a real life environment where they actually have to excel and grow and expand their minds and their thoughts, guess what? A lot of times they have to play catch up. They have to play catch up in their mentality to actually get to that certain level. So guess what you start doing? You start comparing and contrasting yourself with everybody else. You start to think about, well, why was I reared this way? How come I wasn't taught all of these different things in ways that I should act and things that I should know to get to this level of achievement that I want? And you start to take on these feelings of self-doubt, self-esteem. I don't belong in this room. Why am I in this room? Who am I? All these different phrases. And we all go through it. We all go through it at some point or another. But here's the thing that it'll manifest into. And I want to talk real quick about these five different types. So we're just going to go through them really quickly because I want to get into the meat. I want to get into the meat of everything. So one of the first types, make sure that I have it. I think I actually have it correct. Let me make sure I got this right here. There we go. It's a perfectionist. The perfectionist. Hopefully you guys can see that. If not, there you go. I'm gonna write it over because we are live and I can do that. The perfectionist. Are you a perfectionist? Are you a perfectionist? Do you feel that you have to have everything 100% perfect and everything has to be 100% on time? Right? What are your thoughts? Do you feel at every single moment you actually have to be 100% right and perfect with everything that you do? Imposter syndrome can cause you to think in that context, can cause you to think that you have to be 100% perfect before you start. I dealt with that so much in my life where you get stuck in thinking that everything has to be perfect. I'll give you a clear example. Everything what I'm doing right now, this live stream, everything. I thought everything had to be perfect before I started. I started a while back, and I connected with Alicio to help me with the overlays and different things like that. I felt that everything had to be just so, and it caused me to pause and to probably miss some opportunities from a time frame and starting sooner. It caused me to do that. And I realized that I had to just show up. I had to figure out to move past that and understand that perfectionism isn't that. No one's going to be perfect. And I know that in my heart of hearts. Completely understand that. Completely get that. I know that no one's perfect. But the feeling of self-doubt can cause you to move into this idea that you have to be perfect and everything has to be perfect before you start. Okay? This next one. I don't know if my daughter Kayla's watching this, but maybe she is. I hope she is, because we actually talked a little bit about this one with her. And this is the super woman or man. You can either be a superwoman or a superman. And this is number 2 from a imposter syndrome type. Superman or superwoman. So you stay later than everybody else. You get there sooner than everybody else. Even when the project's complete, everything's buttoned up. Everything's dialed in. Presentation is looking great. You have all your ducks in a row, and it's still not right. This is not a perfectionist stamp. This is not the perfectionist. This is the overachiever mindset that you actually have. You know, I have to show everybody. that I'm great, that I can do this, that I'm above. I'm above everybody, and I don't mean above in a high-minded standpoint. I mean above in an output standpoint. And so, from an imposter syndrome standpoint, that self-doubt causes you to rear yourself up and pushes you to this point of, I got to be better. I got to stay later. I got to come in early. I got to make sure everything is great. I got to make sure everybody understands their role, understands their situation, all these different things. And that is the Superman or Superwoman type from an imposter syndrome standpoint. And we're going to move into the next three. I want to do some engagement real quick. I want to take this off the screen. And I want to go into just a couple of comments real quick. We already talked to Alicia. What's up, man? Facebook user, someone says hello. Hello to you too. I'm not sure who you are. Hopefully there's a link. I don't know if there's a link that you can probably click so that I can actually see your name. I'm also have a screen over here with Facebook as well too. So I'm gonna refresh this to see if I can get some names to kind of go along with this as well. I got that as well too. So good evening, Steve. I'm looking forward to this video. Awesome. Thank you so much. Someone else says hello. Someone says no. I'm not sure what you mean by that. I'm sure what you mean by that. Didn't know. I feel that especially with the level of my education and my current position as a coordinator with my department, it's not doubt, but based on my color, because you have to work twice as hard and be twice as good. Understood. And we can actually talk about that. I'm going to talk about that here in a second too. And then I was that superwoman with parenting for sure. Good. Excellent. One of the episodes I did from a podcast standpoint was on imposter syndrome, actually. And I actually did it more from a diversity standpoint as well, because when you start to think about imposter syndrome and also being African American and climbing up the corporate ladder, there are so many other variables that you actually have to deal with. The microaggressions, unconscious biases, lack of representation. All these things play a role, even more so from an imposter syndrome standpoint than anything else, almost in your entire career. And so I dealt with that from that standpoint, and I still deal with that from a personal standpoint. It's part of who I am. It's not an excuse. It doesn't prevent me from giving 100% of myself. It doesn't prevent me from going after it. But what it does do, it makes me aware that I do have to make sure that I have my ducks in a row as I continue to excel and move in my career as well. So let's talk a little bit about the natural, the third one, the natural genius. The natural genius. So you are super confident, except when you hit a roadblock. The natural genius has the ability to utilize imposter syndrome to excel and catapult them to the next level. But when you hit a roadblock, it's almost like it's a disaster, and you can't move past that. You're so smart. You get it. You understand all the different moves that you need to make. You understand all the different people that you probably need to come in contact with, everything. However, when you hit a roadblock, you almost feel some measure of shame because everybody is looking at you, and you may have hit a roadblock in your life, and now it is causing you to internalize this as everybody is looking at me because everybody thinks that I should be doing this or I should be going in this direction, and I'm not. And so for the natural genius, this is one of the issues that imposter syndrome will feed upon. This is one of the manifestations of imposter syndrome. This one, I actually coach a lot of people that deal with this one. And this one is the soloist. The soloist. The soloist. This person feels that they can do it all by themselves. They don't need anybody. Or here's the thing. They only need somebody from a consumer standpoint. So stick with me on this one. One of the things, when you think about consumerism, the idea about consumerism, it is the ability to just do that. It is to consume without the act of reciprocity. It is you are consuming something and you're using it for your benefit, but you're not giving anything back in return. The soloist has some of that. They are a consumer of information, of talents for other people for their benefit to move their agenda along. And what happens is that they won't give any accolades to that person. They feel everything that they've been able to do is based off of who they are and what they've been able to achieve from a solo effort. Isn't that weird? Isn't that crazy? That is crazy. You're doing all of this stuff and you're trying and you're working with other people, so to speak. But what you're really doing is utilizing and using their mindset and their perspective and their knowledge to help you further your agenda. However, from an imposter syndrome standpoint, what causes you to fail is that you still feel that you need to do it all alone because no one can do it like you, even though from time to time you're utilizing the knowledge of other people. That's crazy. That's just crazy. I've dealt with so many people like that. So many leaders like that. Is that you? Are any of these resonating with you? Are any of these hitting a nerve inside of you? And here's the thing. It's not a bad thing. If some of these things are actually, coming to your mind, you're like, ooh, that's me. That's me. Because I'm going to talk about some of the good stuff here in a second and what we need to do to kind of move past this as well. All right? We're going to do that. Let's talk about this last one. And this is, I like this. Let's talk about this last one here. And the last one is the expert. The expert. Very skilled, very knowledgeable. They're almost a combination of all of these: the perfectionist, the Superman woman, the natural genius, and also the soloist. They're almost a combination of all of these. They are an expert. But here's what happens with the expert. Imposter syndrome, we just talked about, it deals with your ability to start to self-doubt who you are, to actually talk about different things in your life a lot differently. The self-esteem, low self-esteem kind of comes out, the feeling of not feeling worthy or deserving of different accolades from achievements that you've actually been able to achieve. The expert is an expert at becoming an expert. Stick with me. What they want is more knowledge, more certification. Imposter syndrome says you're not worthy enough. Imposter syndrome says you have your self-esteem is low. So guess what do? Guess what you do? You self-medicate with education. You self-medicate with certifications. You self-medicate with books. Not saying the books are wrong. I love books. You self-medicate with knowledge. You self-medicate in order to continue to feel better and better about yourself, because once again, the imposter syndrome aspect is coming into your life and it's saying that you're not worthy enough. Well, you know what? I'm going to make myself worthy enough. I'm going to get the certifications, right? There's a lot of long time students out there, right? People, I'm a lifetime student, right? They got degree upon degree upon degree. I have several degrees myself, but they were always with a purpose. They're always with an intent. The expert is the expert at becoming an expert, and they will self-medicate through education and knowledge and trying to obtain even more. Let's go to a couple of comments. Let me see where I left off at. Says I'm not able to toil share this live. I'm not sure. So you're not able to share this live. The natural genius, when they hit that roadblock and don't know how to problem solve and deconstruct the roadblock, 100%. They hit that roadblock and they're stuck, and because they're too smart for their own good, and they don't ask for help because they feel like if they ask for help, it's a sign of weakness. And so guess what? They continue to get stuck in the mire, and what they end up doing is blaming, society or everybody else for their situation, when instead all they had to do was ask for help to become unstuck. But from a imposter syndrome standpoint, I'm smart enough to get out of this. I've built this knowledge base up. I'm okay, so I'm not going to ask for help. But they are continuously stuck. I just did I think it's coming out tomorrow. An article on the shiny object syndrome, and what that is, of course, is that you move from goal to goal, project to project, and you leave a whole bunch of things unfinished because the next thing that you see is exactly, or you think it's exactly what you need to move forward, to move your agenda forward, your project forward, your business forward, your life forward. And so every little shiny object, squirrel, right? You just go. And so we think about the natural genius. Their mindset isn't about the shiny object syndrome. Their mind is that I'm stuck here, and I'm not going to ask for help from anybody. I'm going to figure out how to do this. But guess what they end up doing? They end up leaving probably one situation and moving to another one because they weren't able to get past that one obstacle within that one lane. So guess what? They may shift lanes and become an expert and shift over to that area. Let me see. The natural genius. Oh, same thing. Hey, Steve, I came in late, so I haven't seen myself yet. Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad. Whoever you are, I'm glad you're here. The first three for sure, but it's me knowing who I am and understanding that about myself. 100%. The expert syndrome has been pushed upon me based on my educational levels, and I reject it quickly because I am a continuous learner. Agreed. I think there's a difference between continuous learning, right? Between continuous learning and being an expert. I think, because I feel like I'm a continuous learner. I think continuous learners, they're intentional. I think there's a level of intentionality when it comes to continuous learners. They are looking for specific things that will help maybe feed their interest in something very similar. I think when you think about the expert standpoint, I think it's almost a fine line to some degree, but I think the expert is that they're gaining knowledge just to gain knowledge, right? How many of us have been in a room? We've been at a conference, we've been at a corporate meeting, and that guy Jerry walks into the room, right? We all know Jerry. Jerry's that dude that will just start sharing information just to share information about whatever, something that we're not even talking about. Here comes Jerry. Oh Lord, right? Jerry, that person, that persona, I feel is an expert from an imposter syndrome standpoint, because a lot of times they're just gaining knowledge so that they can share it, so that they can show everybody that they have the knowledge. a continuous learner, they're actually utilizing their knowledge for an intent to share with other people, but to empower them and also themselves, right? I think they share with a purpose, not just to share for share's sake. So hopefully you agree with that, or hopefully that resonates with you a little bit. LOL, you found yourself. You found yourself. All right, good deal. Let me make sure I got everybody. The expert is me to a degree, because I need the level of education and certification to make money. 100%. Listen to me. And please don't get me wrong. You know, when I start talking about the continuous learner and the person that goes after certifications, that is not my point. The point about sometimes you do need the additional certifications, right? For a long period of time, I was in the project management field. Loved project management, right? I was a regional director for business development, and I would go into different companies, and it didn't matter the business discipline. My goal was to go into the companies and help them uncover their business pain and utilize project management tools and techniques to help them problem solve. And one of the things that we did continuously, of course, was certification for different people from a project management standpoint. And here's a quick story with this about the education. And this is an expert situation. I would facilitate classes for project managers, and they would take the certification. When you take your project management certification, it's a pass or fail. You get a grade, like say you get a 75, 85 or whatever it is, and passing is 80. You've passed. No one, an employer, doesn't go back and say, well, what did you get on your certification for project management? They just say, did you pass? Are you certified? Yes. All right, good. Done deal. Do you know how many people came back and would, because we offered it free. If you took it once, you can take it again. You know how many people came back in order to get a better grade for their certification? Oh man, I got like 85. I at least got to get a 90. At least, why? Yes, you may want to do it for internal, gratification and things like that. But for me, I was always just like, dude, seriously? You're done. Like, why? Like, utilize that time. Now, go get your black belt in Six Sigma or something like that. Do something a little bit different. But you have people out there that are internally wired to think and to react that way. So it takes all types. It takes all types. Hey, Daphne. Yep. Yeah, I'm in education as well. I continue to work at gaining knowledge and continue not to feel like I've arrived. Agreed, because you never do. My old pastor, when I moved to Charlotte, Pastor Philip Davis, and we were on a golf course. We were talking about leadership, and then we were talking about God too. And he went to all these different schools and for divinity. And he said, Steve, you know what? Got my PhD, but I realized I'll never get my PhD in God. And Steve, you'll never get your PhD in leadership, right? You can actually have a PhD in leadership, but you'll never get a PhD in leadership, meaning that you'll never arrive. You should have the ability and humility to feel that you have never arrived. I think as a continuous learner, there is a sense that you have never arrived, and you're just continuously hungry for more knowledge in order to expand your influence. Not share knowledge for sharing's sake, but to expand your influence. It's completely different. I'm 50 and never hear about this till I did Lita last April. Imposter Syndrome, John Ryan. What's up, man? It's crazy because NYS makes you neurotic in obtaining certifications to move up the pay scale. And that's in some situations, in some industries, right? You need that knowledge. You need the certifications. IT is probably one of them, right? You probably need different certifications, different disciplines, all these different things. And there's nothing wrong with that, because You are. You're pursuing the education in order to one, make more money, to expand your influence, not just for knowledge sake, And here's the other thing, right? I love golf. I haven't played in a while, even though I love it. When I first started playing golf, I was reading all types of books about golf, because I wanted to expand my knowledge and my ability to actually play the sport. Took lessons upon lessons just so I could actually learn how to break 100, then break 90, right? And so there was an intent behind me trying to expand my knowledge in this subject matter, in this subject area. And I think people are doing it the same way, whether it could be technology. I'll give you another example real quick, and then we're going to move forward, is because, when you start to do live streams and you're starting to do all of those other stuff, all this technology and everything that I have around me, listen to me, man, I had to go to school on this. And it's not like a regular school. It was in Ecamm, it was in Lita, it was in all these different things to learn all of this stuff. And I actually went to school studying YouTube, studying all of these things. And part of me, part of it was the expert aspect of me from an imposter syndrome that took over a little bit, was that I had to have everything perfect. I had to have the right cameras and all these other things. And it took me a little while to start. But I'm so glad that I had so many great people. John Ryan is one of them, and Jeffrey and all those guys that continue to encourage and go ahead and get out there, and got a great assistant to help me kind of move forward. My oldest daughter is massively encouraging every time we have a conversation, and so you need people around you to help you move past some of this stuff, and we're going to talk about that in a second. I just want to get past and get through these. It's crazy. Yep. Okay. Got that one. That's too bad. Maybe elaborate on that one, because I apologize if I'm missing something just in translation, because I'm moving through these as well. How you doing, Michelle? Great topic, Steve. I totally got squirrel syndrome. Yeah, you got it. Oh, that's Jerry. What's going on, Jerry? I agree with the analogy of being intentional. Thank you. I agreed with that. And so I'm one of those people who get paralyzed by learning. I keep learning about live streaming, but imposter syndrome holds me back. I'm looking for that perfection as well. So there's Amy. All right, Amy. Okay, so we're going to talk. We're going to talk a little bit about how do we move past this? How do we move past this? Here's a couple of things about imposter syndrome that people won't really tell you, because I don't know. They're not thinking about it in this context. And I've dealt with this for a while, and I'm just going to cut through the chase, right? Imposter syndrome happens, and it occurs when you're about to do something of significance. If you are in your current role, if you're in your current comfort zone, you are not dealing with imposter syndrome. You may feel inadequate, maybe in your current role, but if you're striving for something bigger, if you're striving for something more, if this is not the expert, this is just your thoughts and your goals, and you're striving for something more, imposter syndrome could rear its ugly head. It could actually start to manifest itself, because we are human beings. We're sometimes, and I'm going to move past all of this stuff too, because a lot of these things I'm about to say are excuses. We struggle with the fear of making a mistake. Oh, come on. I know that hit a nerve for somebody. I know it hit a nerve for somebody. We struggle with the fear of making a mistake. We struggle with the fear of missing out. We even struggle, and this is one of my issues, one of the things that I've always had to work with and work on. We even struggle with the fear of success. Yes, there I say it, the fear of success. How many how many I grew up in the 80s, right? Born in the 70s, grew up in the 80s, right? So I'm old school basketball, sports or whatever, right? I don't know how many of those guys that I looked at in basketball and sports in the 80s growing up and extremely talented. And then they move into having all of this money and not being able to transition properly. And that success hits them and they don't know how to act. They don't know how to work within that level of being successful. And I think a lot of times for me, and that's a big like example, right? That's a large example. But how many of us have seen people that we've admired and they've failed? And I know it's not you. I know it's not you. But it's a person that you know. It's a person that you've looked up to. It's a person that you've probably admired, and they failed. You're like, dang, if that person can fail, if that person can't get it right, how can I? Who am I? Imposter syndrome. Who am I to be successful? Who am I to actually say I want to have, 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 subscribers? Who am I to say that I want to have, start a coaching community where I'm coaching people, on a daily basis, right? Daily, which I'm doing to some degree now, but I want to do more of, right? Who am I? And that's the imposter syndrome that starts to move in your life because you're about to do something big. Here's what I'll advise for you. Use it. Use it as a catapult. Use it as a springboard. Understand that you are on the brink of something different. You are on the brink of something new, something that you haven't uncovered before. And that's why you're feeling this way. When you're comfortable, you don't feel this way, right? If you're comfortable where you are, you're not going to feel this sense of angst because you're comfortable. So start utilizing it for what it's worth. Here's what you need to do. I'm going to give you three things. And I'm going to jump off or see if anybody else wants to come on, live. That would be kind of cool too. If you want to do that, let me know. Number one. Oh, this one. Hopefully, please, I got to explain this one. You have to become a professional. A professional. You have to, I wrote on my face. I got to move that over. You have to become a professional. I'm going to put that over here. Hopefully that works. Oops. I don't know if that works. I'm live, so I can do this. I'm okay. Professional. Why is that so far over? Anyway, I'm live. It is what happens. That's what happens when you go live. So you have to be a professional. What does that mean? You have to become a professional in understanding, almost an expert, but you have to become a professional in how you handle your business, in how you handle yourself, in how you handle interpersonal relationships, in how you handle professional relationships. You have to have a different level of understanding the consequences of your actions and also the decisions that you make. Because where we are right now is nothing but a culmination of our decisions. And if we are acting in an unprofessional manner, if we are not putting in, so I watch a lot of soccer, And one of the things that if you ever hear, like in an announcer, they will often talk about soccer players putting in a professional performance. And that always bugged me a little bit initially when I first started learning and loving the sport. What is a professional performance? Meaning that they are not taking their opponent for granted, even though they may be superior in talent. They are not taking their opponent for granted. They are not taking their situation for granted. They are still doing a professional job. I'll give you another to extend this soccer analogy. When your team is a lot better than the other team, the tendency sometimes, and we see this in basketball, some other sports, the tendency sometimes is to put in the subs, put in the bench warmers, and things like that. In soccer, they don't do that. They will blow you out. You will go 6-7-0 because it is deemed as unprofessional if you don't give your effort 100% while you're out there. And that's something I learned like over the last 10 years as I've learned and learned to love and grow the sport, is that putting in a professional performance. And it's the same thing for us. Putting in a professional performance will help you combat the idea of imposter syndrome because you're positioning yourself completely different. Okay, I'm done with that one. Preparation. How are you preparing? How do you prepare? One of the things I just did another one, a live stream a while ago about showing up, right? And we talked a little bit about the 2X identity, and your beliefs begets your thoughts, and your thoughts beget your actions. And when I think about preparation, I almost think about it in the same context, because when you prepare and you know your material and you know what you want to speak about, there is a different level of confidence. It's not conceit. It's not arrogance. There's a different level of confidence that you have when you have to speak on a subject, right? That continuous learner. And you're preparing for a speech, you're preparing to, go live, or you're preparing to have a conversation with somebody, or as from a coaching standpoint, you're preparing to have a coaching session with that person because you have prepared. You have gone through all your notes. I'm going to be doing a video coming up here on how I prepare to connect with my clients. What do I do, an hour before my session with them? What do I do a day before my session, a week before my session with them? Because it's all in the preparation. And if you are prepared, one, you will know your material, and you will also know that imposter syndrome is going to come and rear its ugly head. But you know that you can actually deal with it because you're prepared. And then the realization that it could be there, it's going to be there. And I'm going to use this analogy. So those of you who have heard me speak for a while probably know which one I'm going to talk about. Maybe you don't. So one of the questions, so this realization, this last one, people often ask me, hey, Steve, do you ever get over imposter syndrome? And I think you do. But here's the other thing that I think I know. So there was a movie, like I said, I use this analogy a lot, but I apologize, but because I truly love it, is there this movie, A Beautiful Mind. So those of you who have heard this before, please bear in mind. And it's with Russell Crowe, and he plays a professional, he plays a scientist called John Nash. And John Nash is crazy. He's schizophrenic to some degree, but he's brilliant. They want to give him the Nobel Peace Prize. They want to give him this massive, massive accolade. And what happens is that at this point in time in the movie, it's near the tail end, and they visit him at the university. He has pretty much stopped teaching. He's almost just like a mascot, if you will, of the university, and he helps students out pro bono, and he's a fixture at the university. And come to the university, and they're talking to him, and they're telling him that they want to give him the Nobel Peace Prize. And he says, okay, well, I think what you really want to know is if I'm still crazy, or do I still hear voices? And one of the things, when you look at the movie, you realize is that throughout his life, he has struggled with listening or hearing three separate voices, right? A young man, an older man, and a young woman, and a young girl that were always kind of like these characters in his mind. And so they're in the cafeteria, and he looks over across the cafeteria, and he sees all three of them, and they're quiet, and they're in a corner. They're sitting at the table or something like that. And he says, you want to know if I still, hear the voices? And he says to them, and they say, yeah. He said, well, I'll tell you this. He said, they're there, but I refuse to acknowledge them. And I'm telling you, man, when he said that, I don't know if I start crying or I just started like yelling and screaming, because the tendency with imposter syndrome and a lot of things that we struggle with, they are going to be there, right? They're going to be there to some degree, to a large degree, where sometimes it has been debilitating for some of my clients where they can't move, or sometimes it's there where they are now and learn how to embrace it. Same thing with John Nash. Those voices were there, but he chose not to acknowledge them. Imposter syndrome is something that a lot of us are always going to continue to deal with. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing or a good thing. It is what it is. It's different for every person. But what I want to leave you with is that you have to embrace it, and you have to utilize it to catapult your thoughts, your project, your idea, your business to another level, because you know that you are on the brink of something big, or else you wouldn't be feeling this way. They're going to be there, but you have to choose not to acknowledge it. You have to choose not to acknowledge it. Embrace it and move forward. Go forward. And yes, he says, great movie. It is a great movie. It is a great movie. And then someone says, hello, Steve. Hey, how are you doing? I'm not sure who you are, but I appreciate you being here. So, imposter syndrome. I truly hope that you have been able to get some value out of this conversation, this dialogue, or any questions or anything that you have. If you're catching this on the replay, please go ahead and put something in the comments, a question or a thought. I would definitely answer it. If you have something that you want to discuss in private, if you want to connect from a coaching standpoint, please, you can reach us on the website. It's worthyretailyou.com/now. All of our information is in our links, for the video, everything. That's why I don't put a lot of our stuff on the screen sometimes, because everything that you need to do and connect with us, if you want to, it's all in the information that's going to be provided with the information with the videos for coming on board as well too. So truly appreciate you. One of the things that I did want to say, and I don't know if I may do this. I may go ahead and do this as well too. May do this live. I'm just going to talk about it real quick too, and I'll probably you can actually see the information on all of our pages. So on Tuesday morning, I got to get better at this side of the business. On Tuesday morning, I am going to be connecting with Paul Norfor. Paul Norfor is a Londoner who has an amazing YouTube channel. But Paul is a former radio broadcaster. Now he is a public speaker, and he has an amazing YouTube channel. He's a great creator. He has so many different leadership philosophies, and we are going to learn how to fail. When I talk to Paul at 8 o'clock, it's going to be 8 o'clock in the morning, Eastern Standard Time, around 1 o'clock his time over in the UK. I'm excited about that. We are going to learn how to fail. And that is on Tuesday, once again, 8 o'clock in the morning. And then on Wednesday, 7 o'clock, I am going to be talking to another good friend of mine, Robert Reed. Robert Reed has an amazing podcast called Never Call Me Again. And he also has a YouTube channel called Spoke Audio, where he talks about equipment, leadership, inspiration, and different, just a myriad of things. But the thing that I have enjoyed about Robert and having our conversations is that he's a former military person like myself, but he has a great perspective on people, on leadership, on how to deal with people. And if you are a leader, if you are a retail leader, right, one of the things you know is that you have to deal with people all the time. And part of one of our pillars is around communication. And so we're going to be talking about how do you communicate with people? How do you inspire people? And do you inspire people? And that is going to be this Friday. That is going to be this Wednesday. And that's going to be at 7:00. So all the information, of course, is going to be in all the socials. If you go to YouTube, you go to LinkedIn, you go to Facebook, it's all going to be there as well. I look forward to chatting with all of you guys there and maybe having some conversations as well. I appreciate you guys. Oh, dude, thank you, buddy. I appreciate you so much. You're a subscriber to True North. Yeah, he's the truth. He's the truth. So I'm excited to have a conversation with you. Once again, thank you for joining me tonight. Hopefully you got something out of this. I wish you all the best. Have a great night. God bless.